Now, winter may be upon us, and on those cold, dark nights when you've been missing all your favourite action from your adrenaline-fueled sport, worry not, because we're here to help fire you up and get you in the mood for the new season. Welcome to the NEC in Birmingham and the 2015 Autosport International, the racing car show.
There's already a lot of anticipation for the new year after 2014 proved to be such an incredible success for British drivers. Anthony Davidson claimed the FIA World Endurance Championship, Alex Lynn took the title in GP3, whilst Jolyon Palmer stood tall wearing the crown in GP2. And of course Lewis Hamilton became the first British driver since Sir Jackie Stewart to take 2 world titles in Formula 1.
So with British racing riding high, we're going to be out and about, admiring the machinery and chatting to all the top stars that are here, be that in rallying, touring, sports cars or Formula 1.
Everybody, hello, welcome to Autosport International 2015.
It's with Formula 1 we start, and the F1 racing stand is always a highlight here at the show, with a full grid of cars on display for fans to get right up close and marvel at these incredible machines. I'm joined by Stuart Codling from F1 Racing magazine. Stuart, we've got to start with Lewis Hamilton. What an amazing year, but it was tough for him, wasn't it?
It was very hard. I think made for a very well-deserved World Championship victory, and to see 2 very equally matched teammates slugging it out, not always in the best of humour, being a bit of rancour here and there, but ultimately for it to end in a marvellous fight at Abu Dhabi where Nico went up afterwards and was very sporting. I think it's a great story for Formula 1, and Lewis rightly views this as probably an even better achievement than his first championship.
Now, before we go any further with the 2014 season, we must talk about Jules Bianchi.
It was a terrible accident because he's a guy who really had a lot of career in front of him. He was very promising, signed up to Ferrari, and had that accident not happened, we might be standing here talking about him potentially being in the Ferrari instead of Kimi Raikkonen this year.
Everybody here wishes Jules and of course Michael Schumacher, who's still recovering from that terrible skiing accident, a full and speedy recovery. So now let's look at the new season ahead, and firstly the most obvious thing is there's a gaping hole in the grid. We've lost 2 teams, Marussia and Caterham.
Well, just think, 12 months ago we were standing in this very spot watching Max Chilton announce live to the showgoers that he was driving in 2014, and now here we are. Our stand's shrunk a little bit. There's a little bit more space for the people coming to the show to enjoy the cars that are here. Maths isn't my strong point, but we need more people, and there has to be a way of addressing the cost situation, because the way the sports commercial structure works at the moment, it's very balanced in favour of the teams who are already at the front, who are already successful, and are therefore more likely to attract the big name sponsorship deals. Now, someone like Bernie Ecclestone would tell you that that's as it should be, because it's survival of the fittest, and he shouldn't be reaching into his own pocket to subsidise losers. And that's a very harsh way of putting it, and it doesn't really create a playing field where young talent to come in and be exciting and actually generate a little bit of interest and bring new sponsors in, because the health of any sport has to be about bringing new commercial properties to it and not just squeezing the existing ones until they're bled dry.
So let's take a look at Sauber, which is now the lower end of the grid. They had a tough 2014.
Yeah, they hit rock bottom in more ways than one, because they had their worst season ever, and now with the removal of the teams behind them, they are now at the very back, and the car was overweight, it was too slow, they didn't develop it enough through the year because they were running low on money, and so now they've had to take on a pay driver in the form of Marcus Ericsson, who, if you think back to Spa, was pretty much instantly outpaced by a new guy who'd not driven a Formula 1 car for 10 years. And they've taken on Felipe Nasr, who is a kind of an unproven prospect. He's done well in the lower formulae, but he didn't win the GP2 championship, and we're in a situation where the winner of the GP2 championship has not got a seat for 2015, and the guy he beat is waltzing into Formula 1.
Next in line, it's Lotus. They're sticking to their same driver lineup, so what are their prospects for 2015?
Well, if Pastor Maldonado has his way, there'll be a few more fender benders, but to my mind, the presence of this exact car here, which is chassis number 2, in the the form it's in says a lot about what they think about this car, because whereas most teams will bring a car that's in show spec with no live aero or less live aero, no engine or gearbox, they've actually just brought this whole car here. You can see the drive shaft, it's got the engine, the gearbox. They want rid of it, they want to start again for 2015.
Toro Rosso, they're going for a very young, inexperienced driver lineup for this year.
This is very much Formula One's youth club, and they have gone for, I would say, fresh, exciting talent. You know, Max Verstappen has a lot going for him, so does Carlos Sainz. But you have to look at the way the rules are going to be structured in the next year. The FIA obviously think that there's something going a little bit awry in terms of bringing in very young drivers, so they've changed the qualifying rules by which these guys will be able to get a super license. They've changed the points weighting that contributes towards that sort of status, and they've taken a lot of the value of Formula Renault 3.5 away, so that the FIA are in effect trying to steer drivers towards a Formula 2 series that doesn't even exist yet, which is a mystery to some of us. But I think that when we actually see Carlos and Max line up on the grid, they will deserve a place. It's just unfortunate that in some ways they've leapfrogged other drivers who you might argue is well worth having a go.
Thanks, Stuart. We'll be back to have a chat later on about the mid-pack, but for now, let's move on with the show.
Here at Autosport International, a lot of the drivers enjoy it as much as the fans. So you never know, you may just bump into them wandering around the displays and enjoying the fun side of the show. Or if you want, you can always meet them face to face at the autograph signing sessions.
Well, Jolien, first of all, congratulations on a spectacular season.
Thanks, it was really a great year. Started well in Bahrain, took a win and then controlled the championship from there. So it was a really important year for me to win GP2 championship. It's so competitive and it's the best place to win below Formula One. So it was an important year, and I was happy really with how I did it with 3 races to go against a tough field. So it was a good year, and now just got to try and make use of it for the future.
It was an amazing year, really, to be honest. I think it really set my career up on the map, and I think it's allowed me to get the opportunities I have for this year, and hopefully going to set me on my course for, to have a nice little career now.
Winning the World Championship in sports cars, everything I wanted since leaving F1, and in a championship that's growing more and more all the time, and I still obviously involved with Formula One, talking about it as many races I can with Sky.
Who would ever have thought it? You know, we started karting, 1993, 94. With no expectations other than just to go out and enjoy ourselves, and here I am. My son's now double world champion, made history, is 4th or 5th in the all-time list of race winners. I mean, it's stuff that dreams are made of. So quite unique.
One thing that's great about the show is the central stage where everyone who's anyone gets interviewed. It's a great opportunity for fans to hear from drivers and team bosses and hear what they really think is going on and gain a real insight into the world of motorsport. And you never know, you may even hear the odd bit of gossip you weren't expecting. Right now, David Coulthard's on stage to entertain the fans.
Let's not talk about Formula One very much. Let's talk about Barbados. Yeah. What was that all about?
Well, I don't know if the public here know anything about the Race of Champions, but they had it in Barbados this year, which the destination was enough to get me to want to go along. And in my mind, I'm very much retired from racing, so I'm slightly embarrassed to have come back with 3 trophies, 3 free watches, and various other bits and pieces. So they'll be going up to the museum in Scotland along with all the other stuff.
Have you ever fancied trying your hand at presenting? Well, you can do just that here at the Motors TV stand. You never know, it might be your big break.
Now, there are lots of simulators here at the Autosport International Show, and these are no longer just computer games. In fact, with the cost of testing being what it is, they're also an important part of driver development. In some cases, they've even helped to launch a driver's career. So if you think you've got what it takes to be a racing driver, jump in one of these babies and put yourself to the test.
It's not just within the NEC, you can also head out to the car park and take part in Auto Solo. Let's hit it. How was that?
Epic. Yeah, it was awesome. Got no toes left by the end of it, I'm sure.
It's
good. I really liked it.
Motorsport is usually looking to the future, but every now and then it's great to take a look back. And here at the show, the organisers have put together a wonderful display of racing machinery to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Motorsport News, allowing us the opportunity to relive some of its impressive history. Historic racing has grown in popularity over recent years, and another event celebrating 25 years is the Silverstone Classic, which has gone from strength to strength and is now the largest historic racing event in the world. It gives people the opportunity to relive their youth and watch some breathtaking machinery getting used for what they were originally designed to do, race.
We found really over the past 5, I suppose, years is that everybody is into nostalgia. You know, the demographics are working for us. People are getting older and they want to relive all the nice times they had, you know, particularly when they went motor racing. We've really come along today with all of our racing partners and Classic and Sports Car, which is our media partner, to make a presentation really to give people who come to this show an appreciation of just how broad the racing can be. And you'll see behind me here a very large number of cars which come from the late 1950s right the way through to 1999.
And what other entertainment can somebody get from a weekend at Silverstone Classic?
Well, everybody loves the status quo because, again, it's all about nostalgia. And let's face it, their song catalogue, everybody knows by heart, I think. So they're going to come along and they're going to be our headline act on the Saturday night, which will be great. So you'll be able to watch the Group C cars, which are the lovely Le Mans cars, racing into the sunset with their lights on, and then walk across and then do a bit of headbanging with Quo.
You join us at the Classic Team Lotus stand, and this year they're celebrating 50 years since the legend that is Jim Clark had a fantastic run of success, winning the Tasman Championship, the British and French Formula 2 Championship, the Indy 500 and the Formula 1 World Championship, all in one year, 1965. And this is the very car that helped him dominate the Formula 1 Championship in that year, the Type 33 Lotus.
Well, I have to say I didn't know Jimmy. I was only 5 years old when he died. But there's been some wonderful documentaries about him recently, and I've learned a lot more about him through those. But with Classic Team Lotus, I'm able to work with some of his original mechanics, and that is just the best thing. They have fantastic respect for him, both as a driver and as a man. Last year I went to the Indy 500 for the first time. I was having breakfast in a diner in Indianapolis. They said, "Hey, you're from Lotus, that's Jimmy Clark's team." And they still hold him in a great deal of affection over there. And worldwide, wherever he goes, Jimmy's name is fondly remembered.
Tragically, in 2013, young British driver Sean Edwards lost his life whilst doing driver tuition. It was a huge loss because this was a young man who the stars were aligning to have a very big future in racing. One of the stands here at the Autosport International Show is for the Sean Edwards Foundation.
Sean was one of the most up-and-coming young British racing drivers on the international circuit scene. Last year, in 2013, when he died, he had won the Nürburgring 24-hour race with his teammates and Black Falcon, and he was leading the Super Cup, Porsche Super Cup, at the time of his death. And he was also competing and was placed second in the Porsche Carrera Cup in Germany. The tragic event of Sean's death was so tremendous that in order to change that from such a negative event, I thought the only way to do that was to actually change the event into something positive for him to continue his legacy, and also to promote motorsport safety. So I came up with the idea of a test. First a driver safety course, followed by a test, so that every driver that wanted to compete within the lower series or even up through other series or moving up from one series to the next one would actually go through a course and pass a test to make them aware of the safety conditions and conditions on the track and aware of what possible driving or lack of driving skills that they have might impact or impede on another driver.
And there's also young driver schemes.
Yes, Stefan Rattel and the SRO organisation have produced a fund of €100,000 to be awarded to a young driver at the end of the season, and that driver would be awarded the Sean Edwards Trophy in order to promote them and train them to go up into the next category or series. So it's an absolutely amazing award that Stefan Rattel has come up with.
Here at Autosport International, there's also a very noisy hall where you can come and have a play. Whether you want to get thrown around in a little Ginetta sports car or work up a sweat around the karting course, there's plenty of fun to be had. So how was that?
It was really good. The cars were awesome, so I enjoyed it.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. A bit slippery out there, but it was quite good, yeah.
It was very fast.
It don't look as fast when you're watching it, but when you're in there, it doesn't half move.
The Coy's car auction has become an integral part of the Autosport International Show and always provides us some fascinating machinery to look at before they go on sale. Now, alongside some classic racers, there's always the occasional surprise. For example, Mr. Bean's Mini was on sale here once, as was a Batmobile. And this year is no exception. Well, let's take a look at this fine-looking vehicle. Looks quite familiar.
Well, I mean, what you've got here is possibly one of the most modern historical racing cars that's actually on show here anywhere, let alone one that you can buy. This is Kimi Räikkönen's championship-winning Formula Renault from 2000. He won 7 of the 10 races. So impressive was that performance that he leapt straight from this cockpit into Formula One. What we've got here is Räikkönen's car, an ex-Formula One world champion, but the most important thing, the writing's on the car. It's for sale at no reserve.
Which obviously means I could come in with a £5 bid, and it has to be taken seriously, at least for half a second.
Well, you could bid £5, and if you were the only person in the room, you'd own the car.
So it's not just cars here. In fact, there's something that makes me want to reach for a surfboard. What a special motor we've got back here.
Well, these Volkswagen vans now have become so fashionable and so popular ever since Jamie Oliver did the cooking show in Italy. And everybody saw them and went, that is so cool, I want one of those. And the values have gone up. People have found them, restored them. This is a very rare one. It's a 1966 T1, what they call a bully transporter. And again, it's an original split window, which is really what makes the difference. This is the early style, the very cool, very retro that everybody wants.
Now we're standing here next to what could be deemed quite a special investment. It's a genuine bona fide touring car.
Absolutely, British touring car, 1998, Honda, driven by Peter Cox. This is a example of a future classic, sort of a modern classic that has a great future. By 1998 now, it's old enough now that it's eligible for a lot of historic events. I mean, what a machine! But of course, we now have a huge support network, a huge historic sport in racing cars. It makes a car like this very eligible, potentially very valuable.
Now, this one clearly doesn't have a no reserve sign on it, so you've got a rough guesstimate as to what it'll go for.
Yeah, this has got a reserve on the car, obviously, and you're looking at a car that in the day probably cost £200,000 or £300,000 or £400,000 to build and develop. 2014 price between £70,000 and £80,000.
Well, we're surrounded by expensive, fancy, rare cars, and here is this frankly gorgeous little Mini. But what's so special about it?
Well, this is what you call a time warp. This is a 1985 Mini that has only done 3,000 miles from new, which in terms of mileage, it's about 6 months old. It looks it, it feels it, it smells it. If you wanted to buy a brand new old style Mini, this is probably the only one left in the world.
So let's talk figures. Guess mark as where this could go? go?
Well, again, this is another car that's joining us for the auction again. Magic words, no reserve.
Right.
So your fiver still has a role to play.
It's on this as well. I'm just going to come around with £5 notes all
see
over
what you
the
can
place.
get. See what you can get. You never know.
Now, in amongst all these gems, this one here has got to be one of the stars of the show.
Well, this is a very special car. I mean, it's like the car from the other side of the universe. Just look at it. It's a 1948 Fiat 1100S Mille Miglia Berlinetta. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue. It's a very, very rare Italian racing car built by Fiat just after the Second World War for use in the legendary Mille Miglia 1,000-mile 3-day race. These cars were very successful in those events, and they built a number of customer cars to the specification of the original race cars.
And it's desperately rare.
They're very sought after. They're sought after because of their early post-war racing prowess and their undeniable aesthetic beauty.
Well, I think it's fair to say that most of these cars are way out of my price range, but my word, they really are quite stunning. Join us at the end of the show to find out just how much they sold for.
It's great taking a look around the show, but there's one thing at the event that will really top off your day here at the NEC, and that's the Live Action Arena, the UK's largest indoor track. They're all off to it, so let's take a look what this year has to offer.
If burnt rubber and petrol fumes are what gets you going in the afternoon, trust me, you are sitting in the right place.
It's great to be back here. Kickstarts the whole motorsport year as far as I'm concerned. This year, for the second year running, I get to host the Live Action Arena.
What have you got for us? I can hear some cars revving up backstage.
We're going to tear the tarmac up, mate, because that's what we do and do best.
This year I am at the live show, so I have the truck and the rally car over there.
Our basic intention is to burn as much rubber as we possibly can in the space of 40 minutes. So we've got some F1 stock cars, some autograss cars, stunt cars. We've got a man trying to park his car into a really impossible space, which I think is about that big. Terry Grant is the sort of man that, I don't know what goes on in Terry Grant's mind, but he seems to find new and interesting ways to put cars to their limits and beyond. Terry is the sort of man that just pushes things to the extreme and comes up with amazing car control, brilliant stunts. There's a monster truck in there with him this year. He is absolutely fabulous to watch because it's all there in a 40-minute show that will leave you panting for more.
So now let's get back to our look at Formula One. We've already seen the lower team, so now let's take a look at the mid-pack. And Force India, Sergio Perez and Nico Hülkenberg didn't quite make the impression we would have hoped for, but they're sticking with them for this year.
They didn't set the world alight perhaps in the way the team had hoped. Actually, I think the team will probably be frustrated they didn't take more from the previous season. Because you look at Canada, Sergio Perez could have been in with a win there. He could have been in with a chance of winning, but instead he got caught up in a tangle with Felipe Massa, and that was it. And then from that point on, it was almost as if the momentum went from their development, and they ended the season in this sort of hinterland of being there but not there. So they became a little bit inconsequential, which was very disappointing because for a while they were kind of really showing their former technology partner McLaren the way to go, which was very embarrassing for Woking.
So McLaren, a tough year for such what's known as a successful team.
Yeah, it's a whole brand predicated upon winning, and if I were them, I'd be very disappointed because at the beginning of the year, you can say, okay, so they lucked into having two drivers on the podium because Dan Ricciardo was disqualified from Australia. But that really flattered to deceive. The whole result there, that it was just woeful from beginning to end, really. They just seemed to get worse and worse until right at the end they've recruited some guys, particularly Peter Prodromou from Red Bull, to try and improve things. They brought a new rear wing to the car in Abu Dhabi. But apart from that, there just hasn't been any sign of that car improving. And then at the end of the year, to treat their drivers so badly, way to undermotivate your prize asset. And if I were Kevin Magnussen, I'd feel very aggrieved that they took too long to really decide what to do with me.
And onto Ferrari, a year that we would not have expected from them.
Another year of blood on the carpet with hirings and firings and managers coming and going. We've actually had one manager arrive and get fired in the same year. So you kind of wonder what's going on. And it's the old Ferrari picture of discord, departments not talking to one another, and at the end of the day you have a car that's disjointed, the various elements of it not working together. Apparently the chassis was quite good, but the engine down on power, the hybrid system's not working properly, they're delivering a very undrivable boost of power when they came in, drivers unhappy. They've hired Sebastian Vettel for 2015, but he might just come down to earth with a bit of a thud when he finds out how they operate. He's going to really need to give them a kick to get what he wants. This is actually where we'll see him prove himself as a worthy champion, I think, because he's gone from having a very, very well-drilled team around him and a very, very finely developed technical package to having a team that's in disarray. And this is his Michael Schumacher moment, really. He could go there, he could turn it around, and he could really write himself into the pantheon of F1 legends.
Thanks, Stuart. Well, we'll be back to look at the front end of the grid later on.
Done. 2014 was a big year in rallying. Frenchman Sébastien Ogier took the World Rally title for the second time. And at the final round of the year in Wales, Finnish superstar Mikko Hirvonen decided it was time to hang up his boots and retired from the sport. Here on the Wales Rally GB stand, there's a display that features some classic cars from the past, present, and a glimpse into the future.
This is the first time I've seen it in the flesh. I've seen a picture of it last night. So yeah, I haven't even had a proper look around myself, but it just looks amazing to me. I think it's really good.
I mean, it's a massive brand, and obviously to be partnering up with the Sun as well. So WD-40 and the Sun. Does that put a little bit of pressure on your shoulders?
Yeah, more than normal. But at the end of the day, we've done the championship before. We know what we're doing. We were getting quicker and quicker last year, so as long as we go as we were, I don't see it being a problem. It's me third go at it, and I need to win it this year, so that's the main objective. So we'll see how we get on.
Motor racing doesn't stand still for very long, and it's the engineers behind the scenes that drive the sport forward. And teams are always on the hunt for new ideas and talent. That means there's great opportunities for the brightest minds from our schools and universities, where the next generation of engineers are being produced.
Education is everything, almost in any area, and motorsport is no different. And for students to come to the university and learn properly about cars, what's under the engine, not driving them particularly, or that comes into it, but learning all about the engineering of the car, and to actually be involved in developing cars, because you can see beside us here the shell of the new LMP3. Now this is the first time anyone has been able to see under the bonnet of an LMP3, which is why we're exhibiting it here today, and very shortly it will be completed in the University of Bolton colours. And it's made by Ginetta, the Leeds-based builder of racing cars and sports cars. And Ginetta have a very close link with the university, which is very important.
It's fantastic, especially with the different types of cars. We've got everything from the LMP, we've got Mustangs, we've got all types of cars that all work in different ways. It's great for people who aren't very hands-on. We've got a lot of people who are very good, very clued on about the math side of it and all of the theoretical. And then as soon as they go into the workshop, it clicks and they understand how it works on a car.
It initially started, I had a friend at the university, and I was aware they was quite keen on pushing their engineering, bespoke engineering, motorsport engineering, and I got involved early on, and now I'm officially a student of the university, so I'm studying module by module. Obviously my work schedule is pretty busy with my day job, so the 3-year degree I think is probably going to take me about 10 years, but no, it's great to be a part of. We've got a great team and to work with alongside the students, and obviously racing last year in 2014, racing the VW abroad. The students came along and helped work on the car, so it's kind of, it is a real hands-on experience they get, and it's great to work with the students and as a student myself and a semi-racing driver.
Another regular feature of Autosport International is the charity kart race, the Dan Weldon Trophy. Here all kinds of drivers, some pro, some less so, all battle it out with the aim of raising money for the Alzheimer's Society.
So it's going to be an exciting evening, and see that lots of clean racing and raising lots of money in Dan's memory. It's such a special cause, close to our heart, and even more so because we lost to Dan's mum this year to that horrible disease. So to see so many people here and raising money in Dan's memory is just amazing.
I was invited to come along. I came last year actually, got into loads of trouble for mucking around and squirting people with water pistols and things like that. So I'm here to try and keep up the bikers side of things. I'm here with Troy Corser and a couple of 3 other guys. So yeah, just raising money and for a great cause.
It's great to celebrate also the life of Dan and everything that it stands for. You know, he was such a great driver and such a great guy as well. So it's great that we can support the charity and help out as much as we can.
Now, it's supposed to be fun. However, you can be sure that things will get more than a little competitive.
I think the pressure's on now for me because you look at the lineup and we've got quite a strong one. I was coming here just to have fun, but definitely the red mist is going to come down now. Yeah, I think if we do everything right, we're going to be somewhere there or thereabouts.
Ben Barnacote in car 18 led the field over the line for the start of the 3-hour race. The pace was fierce and there was no quarter given by the teams. It was soon a fight between Vincenzo Safiri Racing, Teesside Ladies and the Bristol Bulldogs for the lead. The race then evolved into a chaotic mix of strategy and pit stops. Notorious prankster Steve Parrish resorted to some sickening tactics to try and psych out the opposition. Vincenzo Safiri Racing in car 18 hit a few penalties mid-race that dropped them back. However, a late race charge forced them back in front. Senham Fielding brought the car home for the win for the 2nd year in a row. After the presentations, former Superbike world champion Troy Corser presented Joe Weldon with a surprise, an autographed helmet that would be auctioned off at a later date. Alongside Autosport International is the Performance Car Show. This is where you can look around some stunning road-going hardware and get up close to some custom cars, supercars, and then go one better to hypercars.
Time is now, time is now. Ooh.
My name is Guy Molitor. I'm the Managing Director of Mayfair Insurance. We provide high-performance insurance for clients where we've got a team of specialists that actually, so you come over to us and we'll put a package together for you.
This is just a prototype, so it's not a working car as such, but we had a lot of interest when I did a drawing about 2 years ago, so we sort of felt forced to perhaps show something. So here it is.
We're the Alvis Car Company, and we've reintroduced the Alvis 4.3 as a production car, and we build them to order. We manufacture the car exactly how it was, but we use modern manufacturing techniques. We use CNC machining and laser cutting and things to manufacture things to a very high standard. But so we've moved a little bit away from the hand-built element, but it's still a bespoke built car.
Right, so on our stand we've got 4 cars, the sort of the latest, fastest cars on sale. We've got the Ferrari 458 Speciale, we've got a BMW i8, a Lamborghini Huracan and a Bull.
My favourite bit is the Lamborghini Gallardo IP3 down at the bottom where the entrance is.
I'm enjoying it massively, yeah. I haven't been for a few years, so it's changed a little bit.
Every year at Autosport International, the British Women's Racing Drivers Club present their annual Club and Elite Gold Star Awards.
Now Sarah, step forward again please and announce the winner of the Elite Gold Star.
Anna Walowska.
I think it's great for women in general in motorsport, just to encourage them, to show that we can do it. We are at the top of our game. Those that are winning are successful, and I hope that helps in encouraging women into motorsport engineering. Obviously, my association with the University of Bolton, so it's really good for us.
The winner is
Ross Shaw.
What does this mean for you?
Hopefully they're going to teach me some new moves, some new overtaking manoeuvres. It's wonderful to have someone actually giving you some support.
I think now more than ever, you've got some really good women that are at the top of their sport. Claire Williams in Formula One, Susie Wolff, of course, test driving. So it's happening now, and this helps. This really helps.
Autosport International is celebrating its 25th anniversary this weekend, so we thought we'd have a chat to a few people and take a trip down memory lane.
I used to come here as a fan, and I once came here as a young local radio reporter to try and get a few interviews, and managed to blag my way backstage to the Autosport kind of inner sanctum, where I sat down and I collared Murray Walker for about 20 minutes and did a little one-on-one interview with Murray Walker, which was the highlight of my little show, 1997, something like that. It was a long time ago, but that little chat with Murray was fantastic, and I'll never forget it.
It was a much smaller thing back then, but what brought it together then was a shared passion for motorsport. You know, I was a fan of motorsport growing up. I'm here with my 6-year-olds. He of course thinks he's a good driver already, so we need to try and get him in a kart at some point, and the journey continues with all these different drivers.
I'm only 25, so it's been going as long as I am old. So yeah, I used to come with my dad a lot, and to be fair, my favourite part was always the hot rod and grass track section.
I was saying, I remember when I came here in 2000 with Lewis, and we were on the other side of the barriers. We couldn't get to talk to anybody, but we wanted everyone's autograph. And it's quite strange that every time I come here, I can now get to where, I can get access to the places that we could never get access to before.
At the karting arena quite a few years ago, I was racing with Dario Franchitti. It was the first time I saw a little kid called Lewis Hamilton, who looked to maybe have a little bit of promise and showed some speed and racing capability. And he's gone on to do some pretty fine things in 2014.
Every year here at Autosport International, there's a lecture on safety within motorsport, named after the late, great Sid Watkins.
As soon as it came to lunchtime, I sort of legged it back.
And this year, the guest speaker is 3-time Le Mans winner Alan McNish.
I had a shunt in '89 at Brands Hatch and rolled the car at Dingledell in qualifying, just dipped the rear wheel as I came up into that sort of jump Dingledell corner, and the roll hook fell off. And so I was sort of lying like this with the weight of the car in my head. Sid Watkins was a pioneer of safety in motorsport, someone that I visited on a few occasions after incidents, someone that took care of us drivers when we really needed it most. But it all links into the fact of what Sid was about, which was making our sport safer for everybody involved, not just the drivers.
In a year where there's been some quite high-profile incidents, accidents, how do you see safety within motorsport developing?
I think the virtual safety car is a very good idea in Formula One. I think the development and understanding and studies into closed cockpits in Formula One is very interesting. Having driven in sports car racing with an open car and a closed car, I know the benefits of the closed car in terms of safety. I also know some of the areas that they have to work on in terms of vision and things like that. What we see right now is a clear vision of what the future is, which is that it's a constant evolution of the safety, as opposed to necessarily something needing to happen before there is a reaction.
Sports car legend Alan McNish.
The British Touring Car Championship is going through a real purple patch at the moment, and it's always such a hit with the fans, and it's easy to see why. Big grids, edge of your seat racing, and in 2014 there were no less than 7 former champions all going head to head. 2015 looks set to build on this and be even bigger and better.
So here we are, 2015, and you're with a new team.
Yeah, very bold new team, and big change for me moving away from the family team that I won the championship with in 2013, but a new motivation, and very excited to get started.
Well, this is it. It's such a competitive championship. What are you thinking for the season ahead?
My aim's to win the championship. I won it in 2013, I lost it last year and I won it back.
So Andy, we're here at Autosport International. Tell us what you've just launched.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously back to Autosport, first event of the year really, the important one, but really excited to announce British Touring Car. I'm back in. It's been quite a while, 2002 was my last year, so very excited, and thanks to everybody, BMW Motorsport, IHG Rewards, and of course all the sponsors to make it happen. But it's going to be fun. The racing's great. I watched the last few races on TV last year and it was really exciting, so I said I've got to have a go at it.
Well, first of all, I've got 2 words to say to you. Andy Prio.
Fantastic. It was my one word back. Back to British touring cars after how many, 12, 13 years? So big name in motorsport worldwide, never mind in Britain, so it's great to have him back in the championship.
So Tim, back when you were racing, it was always notorious for being competitive, but now it's gone off the scale, hasn't it?
Well, in actual fact, statistically, it's more competitive now than it ever was then. You know, we've got 31 cars on the grid, maximum grid, and really and truly, just to get in the top 10 now is a fantastic achievement. There may have been more money back in the Super Touring days of the 90s, but actually, competitiveness-wise, it's far better now than it was even then.
And it's time to get back to our look at the upcoming Formula One season, and it's now time to look at the big boys. And who'd have thought it 12 months ago that Williams would have been such a force to be reckoned with? Stuart, they had a massive change in fortune in 2014.
It's nice to have a happy story, isn't it? But this, even more than that, is a story that's not built on hirings and firings. It's just built on a way of doing things better, and I think it's a vindication of Claire Williams making her presence felt, kind of really growing into her role. She started in the commercial side, she's become the deputy team principal, very much the eyes and ears of her father in terms of the direction of the team, keeping the brand values as it was, and she's really empowered the right people to do a great job. And I think the key hiring was Pat Simmons, who was really turned a technical department that was perhaps disorganised, not firing on all cylinders, into one that's really, really tightly organised. They now bring developments to the car that make it go faster. They're not just throwing new things at it in the hope that it does. So they've basically used the facilities they have better and are doing a better job of what they do. And it's a whole new look as well, because they've brought new sponsors, or in this case Martini, a returning old sponsor, and really added a bit of pizzazz to Formula One again.
Now, Red Bull, beginning of the season didn't look great for them, but Daniel Ricciardo really shone through.
He certainly did. Now, this is the view most of their rivals used to get of them, wasn't it? It hasn't been the case, really. The Renault engine wasn't really all that. They were a bit late to the party in terms of getting everything together. Really, Daniel Ricciardo was their story of the year, and I don't think anyone expected him to do exactly what he did. Maybe he was the only person who really, really believed in himself, because even the team management didn't seem to have that sort of expectation that he would challenge Sebastian Vettel in the way that he did. And even towards the end of the year, when he was mathematically in with a chance of winning the title, they still wouldn't give him their full backing, which to me and to a lot of people was just ridiculous.
On to the big boys, Mercedes. We said earlier in the show that it's been a tough year for the drivers. Can we expect to see a retaliation on that this year?
Well, Nico Rosberg, I think, had a bit of a surprise in 2014, because he, like all the rest of us, kind of maybe thought he would have the edge over Lewis in terms of making use of all the variables you have to manage during the course of a race, especially with the new hybrid power units, where there were all the little bits and pieces that you had to manage, the fuel economy and also the tyres as well. He probably thought he would have it nailed, because he was really in charge of those variables.
And not only looking at the drivers but the team as well, can Toto, or how can Toto Wolff manage that?
Well, I think with the steel fist, really, because he's had to push them apart at various times during the preceding seasons. And he will freely admit that last year he lost control, certainly around Belgium time. You had both drivers bleating to the press individually, while Toto held court trying to say, well, you know, there will be consequences if this happens again. And we as the press rightly said, what are those consequences going to be? And it didn't come to it in the end, because the drivers put their sensible heads on. Maybe Toto did go behind the scenes and bang their heads together and say, look, what's important is that one of you is the world champion and we take the constructors title home. And if we're not careful, the guy in the Red Bull's going to waltz in.
Well, with all of that in mind, where would you put your money for 2015? I'm
probably the wrong person to ask, because I bet on Nico Rosberg last year in the hope of making a profit when he was at 20-1. If you want your money to be safe, Lewis Hamilton. If you want to take a little bit of a punt, the odds are probably better on Daniel Ricciardo, but I think Lewis is going to be very, very, very tough to beat in 2015.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Well, there we have it. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, but what we do know, it's going to be an exciting season ahead. The huge selection of cars at the Coys auction gained a lot of interest, with bidders keen to get their hands on some tempting lots. As the hammer came down, there were a few surprises and bargains.
Number 115, this is the 2000 Formula Renault X Kimi Raikkonen championship winning car, being offered at no reserve. £5,000? £5,000 straight in there, 6,000 anywhere. It's £5,000, I'm selling it, 6,000 here, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. It's 9 here, 10 if you wish. At £9,000, straight in front of me, fair warning, at £9,000.
There was a shock though, as the ex-Peter Cox touring car missed its reserve, although a deal may have been done after the auction.
1985 Austin Mini Mayfair, with only just over 3,000 miles from new, makes it about a 6-month-old car. Let's start the bidding, shall we? £1,000, £1,000 for the Mini, £1,000 here, 1,500, 1,500, 2,000, 2005. 3,000 on my right, 3,000 here, 3,005, 5,500. New money at the back of the room at 5,500. Any advance at 5,500 for the Mini. 3,000 miles from new. 5,000. Sorry, 6,000 here on my left and selling fair and 500. 7,000. 6,750. That's fine. 7,000. It's 6,750 and selling at 6,750. Fair warning at 6,750, 7,000 anywhere, going away at £6,750. Your car, sir.
The beautiful Volkswagen Bully van found a new home, going for a cool £21,800. As for the stunning Fiat Berlinetta, well, again, that didn't go in the auction despite reaching £66,000. However, a deal was made post-auction. Well, unfortunately, it's time now that our look around the Autosport International Show comes to an end. I've had yet another great year here. Andy, it's been your first time, so what do you think?
Oh, it's been amazing. Just seeing all the fans, being able to get so close to the cars, the people, the drivers. Oh, it's been brilliant. Yeah, loved it.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and are now looking forward to what 2015 has to offer. Goodbye from Birmingham.